for it. We are saying it's because of these greenhouse gases, right? So whether you believe that or not, the fact is it's increasing. Agreed? So the temperature has gone up. As a consequence of that, or it would follow logically to assume that if the temperature goes up, it's going to have an effect on ice, right? Because ice is a variation of water that is dependent on temperature, right? You can't be self-respecting water and consider yourself ice at 100 degrees, right? Because at 100 degrees, you will no longer be ice. You will be something else, right? 100 degrees Celsius, you may very well be steam, right? Right? Because that is supposed to be the boiling point. Isn't that a fact? That the boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade? Rubbish. I only lead you on for that just to be able to prove a little point here about science. When people talk about something being a fact, as scientists, we do not refer to things as facts unless we have proper context for it. Water does not boil at 100 degrees centigrade. If you knew the theory behind it, is pure water at 100 degrees Celsius at 1 atmosphere pressure will boil off. Every Sunday, well, those of you who only have time to cook a big meal on a Sunday, when you use your pressure cooker on a Sunday, you are proving that you understand that point. That if you increase the pressure inside of this pot, you can get water to be hotter than 100 degrees Celsius. Everybody still with me? Right? I'm just trying to show you how, when you start hearing people throwing scientific information about the place, you have to be very careful, right? Because the real scientists, the true scientists, don't just throw information out like that without context. So just jump up and say that water boils at 100 degrees centigrade. This proves a lot of stuff. Those of us with fancy iPhones and so, you know that you can get a pressure reading at different elevations. So if you were boiling water on your farm at 600, 800 feet up, it is going to boil a lot faster and at a lower temperature than if you were boiling water at sea level, because we're talking about 1 atmosphere pressure is what you need to boil water at 100 degrees centigrade, right? So I didn't mean to deviate into this science stuff. I just wanted to be sure that when you hear people spouting facts and saying things off the top of the head without the context, you have to be very careful, right? So a lot of things that you believe now, you need to modify it, right? So if all this sea ice and snow cover is melting, it has to go somewhere. And we're seeing the increase in sea levels, and that is what we refer to as sea level rise. Everybody still with me? Still making sense? I mean, I've seen people doing this. Unfortunately, I used to teach secondary school too, so I know what this means. This is, that man still talking about it. That man, you're trying to stay awake and things, right? But, I know it's dark, I know it's air conditioned, I know you have a screen, I know some of you have not something personal, I see that, right? So that, let's not get into full cinema mode, where you figure, how long this show is, but it must have intermission or something, right? So, bear with me, right? But tell me whether you agree, yes or no, but don't give me the trying to keep awake kind of thing, right? So you with me? Yes. Nice. So sea levels are rising. And if you know anything about heat and condensation and water evaporating and the water cycle, and so that's how you run into issues now with precipitation. And I made it a point earlier to say that precipitation is not only about rain falling. It's about any of the forms of moisture in the atmosphere coming back down to Earth, whether it be hail, gruel. There's something called gruel, I think, which is like in between a hailstone and hail. It's just the kind of things that only meteorologists know about. And the last way in which we know that the climate has been changing is the most dramatic one, the extreme events. I am old enough to remember the gradation in these kinds of extreme events. Because remember, we're looking at over a period of several decades. I remember what happened with Hurricane David in Dominica.